My name is Mimi Burns. I'm the project manager for the Rio Grande Vision. I'm with Decker Parrish Sabatini, and I'm a landscape architect, and I'm working with the city and city staff on this project. The objectives of the project are to make the river a bigger part of people's lives, provide better access to the Rio Grande, provide quality recreation opportunities for all, provide quality of life for all, and to facilitate environmental stewardship. These objectives were created before we started working on the project, and they still hold true today. There's been a lot of public outreach for this project. People care about the river, and even before this contract was in place, there had been public meetings about the Rio Grande, about the Rio Grande Valley State Park, and what the city and city members wanted to see along the river. For this project, we've created two committees, a steering committee comprised mostly of, well, a combination of public and private sector individuals representing a variety of organizations and institutions, including the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District Board, tour guides and paddlers who use the Rio Grande for their business and introduce people to the environment, the University of New Mexico, the City of Albuquerque staff, including folks who have been managing the Rio Grande Valley State Park, private citizens, members of the Open Space Advisory Board, the Albuquerque Convention and Visitors Bureau, and local businesses. We also have a technical advisory committee for this project, and that includes staff of the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, representatives of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, AMAFCA, the Local Council of Governments, the Rio Grande Nature Center State Park, Bernalillo County, the Biopark, UNM, and then paddling instructors who are interested in recreation opportunities along the river. There have been 3 meetings for each of these committees, starting in fall and ending in December. Other outreach efforts have included interviews, primarily with subject matter experts, and there's been more than 20 of those. Public meetings, which there have been 4 of those, 2 in October, one on the east side at the Albuquerque Museum and one on the west side at the Open Space Visitor Center, and then 2 more public meetings in December. The east side meeting was held at the Rio Grande Nature Center, and the west side was held at the Open Space Visitor Center again. Additionally, on the Albuquerque The Plan website, there's been information about the project, as well as the opportunity for people to take a survey about what they'd like to see along the Rio Grande. And there's also an individual project website, www.riograndevision.com, where we've had documents throughout the course of the project. We've posted documents for public review. Our approach to this project has several points, and these were developed in concert with our stakeholder meetings, learning more about the river, and also the public meetings and outreach that were done. The improvements must connect and protect. We'd like to celebrate the transitions between the urban and wild areas. So the river corridor and the bosque, much of it will remain just as it is, with strategic improvements. And then this contrast between the urban pattern of the city and this wild area in its midst, we'd like to celebrate that with the corridor plan. We'd like to leverage existing infrastructure and investments. There have been quite a few made along the corridor, including the Albuquerque Biopark. We need to balance the scale and placement of improvements so residents at the north and in the south can also enjoy the Rio Grande, and on the east and the west, and then integrate the wild and natural areas into the mosaic of improvements. They're an integral part of the solution. We'd like to connect people with a variety of opportunities and activities and experiences along the corridor. Connect to a bigger vision. There's the Blue-Green Trail, which is the idea that along the Rio Grande corridor, we could connect New Mexico residents with Colorado and Texas, similar to the Appalachian Trail idea. And there's a blue trail, which is within the river corridor itself, and a green trail or a terrain trail along its side. We'd also like to connect to Rio Grande Valley State Park, which is an existing park, and people don't really recognize it, and it's one of the 25 largest urban parks in America. We need to connect also to the land and water managers. Right now, there are many independent projects going on along the Rio Grande, and to work collaboratively would be one of our goals. Protect. We'd like to protect the restoration efforts and showcase environmental and cultural processes along the river. Protect the public and natural qualities. There's no private development or heated structures within the levees that we're proposing here, and that's an important point. Also, protect the ecosystem through coordinated and best practices and operations. And excite. This corridor plan, the intent is to be bold and persistent in implementing improvements that connect and protect. It's a multi-decade vision. It will take time to implement, but we'd also like to be strategic. Incremental, high-quality improvements that can be maintained is an important aspect of the corridor plan. And be inclusive. Continue to engage the community in defining this vision. So, the corridor plan. It's a conceptual plan, that's important to note, for improvements along Rio Grande from Alameda to I-25 near the pueblo of Isleta. There's elements all along the corridor, and these elements are improvements in zones within the corridor that will connect, protect, and excite. They include the blue-green trail, and also on-the-ground improvements like boardwalks and paths and trails and viewing platforms and restrooms and parking. And there's another level of element included here too, and that is zones for river and agriculture-related economic development. So here's the first section. We've divided into 5, and this is Alameda between La Orilla on the west side and Alameda to the north. There's several improvements included along here, but perhaps the biggest change or biggest improvement that would be noteworthy is a west side trail. One in the Bosque, which would be consolidating existing trails, and one eventually on top of the levee, which would be paved and allow people to make a loop along the Paseo del Bosque on the east side, cross near the Open Space Visitor Center at a new pedestrian crossing, and then loop back up north to Alameda. There's also art and interpretive trails and other improvements proposed in this area. The second section indicated here is the Montano section, which runs between Montano and I-40. This is where the Rio Grande Nature Center is, and also there's a trail on the west side south of Montano that we're proposing to use to introduce people to the river corridor. One of the major improvements here is a boardwalk extending from the existing trailhead south of Montano on the west side to the floodway or the river corridor so that people can get closer to the river. At Central, there's quite a few improvements indicated in the corridor plan, but that's because there have already been many investments made in this area, and we think that we can leverage them and start to bring visitors who are visiting the biopark out towards the river, so that this is a destination as well as the biopark. This includes improvements on the north of Central, where Mountain comes west to the river, perhaps a new park and a boardwalk and consolidated trails, a new pedestrian crossing south of Central Bridge in an old location that might get people closer to the river. There's also boardwalks and a west side trail along the levee south of Central to Bridge, giving people an easier path to travel on this side of the river. At the National Hispanic Cultural Center and south to Woodward, we have included 2 new zones. We think that the end of Woodward is an opportunity for sort of an agrarian development or farming, something to incentivize and educate people about agriculture in this area. And also, there are trails up at the National Hispanic Cultural Center and next to a city park where we could introduce people into the river corridor in a deliberate manner, and they could educate them about the river. The southernmost section runs from Rio Bravo all the way to past I-25. And the major improvement in this area is the extension and completion of the Paseo del Bosque within the city and county. Right now, we would be extending it from the South Diversion Channel all the way south to past I-25. This would be a major improvement and a huge completion of the Blue-Green Trail within the city and county. Also, by the Valle del Oro National Wildlife Refuge, we've included improvements to leverage some of the improvements that are being done by others in this area. This is only one of 6 urban wildlife refuges in the nation, and we think this would be an important area to bring people to the river. So, costs. This is a conceptual plan. We have developed some cost estimates for this work, but further design work is needed. There's also an implementation plan which will identify other funding opportunities, including partnerships and grants. Already the Corps of Engineers is making recreation improvements for their work within the corridor, and we know that there's other partnerships available that would help implement in a coordinated manner recreation and education and conservation improvements along the corridor. The improvements in the corridor plan are independent. They don't all need to happen, and implementation will occur in phases. Please remember this is a conceptual plan. There is no private development being proposed inside the levees. There are no heated structures being proposed inside the levees. The only structures proposed inside the levees are boardwalks, viewing platforms, boat ramps, and pedestrian river crossings. And finally, this is a multi-decade plan. We know that this will be implemented in pieces. We hope to build momentum with the first projects, and certainly those projects will be developed with public input. Next steps, continue to solicit public input and continue to work with our partners and land and water managers to design and coordinate on improvements along the river corridor. For more information, please contact the Mayor's Office at 505-768-3000, or you can email theplan@cabq.gov.